Say that summer is now gone. We're now approaching Christmas, so that's sort of where we are. Very excited about tonight. I'm going to say that this for me has been almost like a kid looking forward to Christmas. I think Robert and I, when did we start planning this? July or August maybe?
Yeah, like July.
Very long time ago. I think you guys are really going to get a ton of value tonight. Whether or not is that not coming through?
Can you turn it on?
Yeah, I'm on already.
Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. All right. I'll try to talk louder as well. So. Robert is just a really interesting guy. I feel that honestly this is one of these, people charge for events. This would be an event where if you guys are coming tonight, I really feel like this is one where we could have charged. Robert's got an enormous amount of knowledge, bright ideas, super forward thinker. I met Robert, when did we meet? About 2007? And just six or seven, just as the market was coming up and everybody thought they were killing it. It's very similar to right now, right? Right before the crash from hell, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So anybody who's been in, who here was in that crash besides me? How bad was it? You could just say bad, real bad.
It was go to McDonald's bad.
It was going to McDonald's bad, God, and it seemed like it was never going to end. It seemed like it was never going to end. And with that, how I met Robert, and how many wholesalers in the room? Just because we're not going to have enough time to go through stuff, so let's just sort of figure out like wholesalers, just afterwards for networking. If you're a wholesaler, raise your hand. Okay, this is most of the room. All right, if you're a flipper, raise your hand. How about if you're somebody in the rental business and you're looking to acquire more rentals? All right, so if you guys were looking around at hands, that's sort of what you guys should be trying to do in our networking session at the end. But how I met Robert, and this is a really interesting question, especially for the position, even for the wholesalers. Sat down with Robert and he said to me, "What's your box?" I was working for a lending company and I currently work for Fund That Flip. We'll talk more about that later if you guys want to talk about loans. And he said, "What's your box of what you fit into?" And I was like, "Well, we 700 credit scores, $20,000 in the bank, and if you've been at your job for 2 years." He's like, "Great." Invites me out to a meeting, stands up in front of the room, and is like, "Hey, if you have $20,000, a 700 credit score, and you've been at your job for 2 years, I can put you in a rental property tonight. Let's talk thorough." And I was like, wow, that's a forward thought right there. Start with the end in mind, work your way backwards to the beginning, and he ran a really successful business like that. So with that, we're going to get started. Before I start, I'm going to just talk a little bit about Christina in the back there. Christina, raise your hand. We run this meeting together. I work for Fund That Flip. I'm the Philadelphia Regional Director, if you want to call it that. I generate loans, so if you're in the business for a loan, for a flip, rental, talk to me afterwards. If you need consulting, any type of real estate coaching, Christine has worked for every big real estate person out there. Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Lindahl. He's working for a guy right now, Zach Childress. Childress? Am I saying that correctly? Yep. People pay, once again, crazy number to me, $20,000 are paying for real estate coaching, and Christine is one of the people that they get to work with. So you have a great resource right in the room. You can kind of go from there. So with that, you want to grab a seat? And once again, this format's a little different. I didn't really want to go with the PowerPoint presentation because I sort of felt like part of that was going to get lost. And whether this format works or not, I guess we're going to be the judge of that. So I'll yell. Robert, you grab this.
Thank you. Hello.
So got my questions all right here. It's a lot of time put into these.
Can we say thank you to Earl and Christina?
Thank you, Robert. And by the way, some of these questions I know the answers to. A lot of them, I didn't want to know the answers to them because I feel like if I knew the answers, it was sort of going to come across as like, this is more like a script versus I really wanted to come across more like as an interview. So I'm sort of excited to actually have some of these questions answered. So,
yeah,
I'm going to silence mine as well because somebody's going to call me at some point and want to bug me. So, just tell us, start at the beginning. So we're going to take a journey with Robert. So tell me about let's start at childhood. We'll just go right there. Were you born in the United States? I can't remember.
No. Actually, yes, I was.
You are? Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. This is in Earl's great introduction. I was standing here like, okay. And I'm very grateful because I know we could all be doing other things, especially, on a cold night like today. So thank you for coming out here and giving me your time. And my objective today is just to talk about the journey that has been, and hopefully there's something in my story that gives you some insight or some ideas or some inspiration. I would have achieved my purpose here today. I come from a very humble beginnings. Grew up in North Jersey and Jersey City, Newark, and New York most of my life. I'm of Cuban descent, mother and father, 100% Cuban. That just simply means that we argue politics, drink coffee, and play dominoes every day. So it's what we do. I'm the oldest of three. I have two beautiful sisters. I'm the oldest brother, and we grew up in an environment where, coming from Cuba, you just basically have a sense of practicality. My parents coming from Cuba, they taught us a sense of practicality, meaning if we don't got it, you don't got it, and if we got it, we got it. And you don't need 3 striped Adidas, you need 4 striped Adidas, and and it basically you're going to survive on what you need, almost to your bare necessities. And growing up like that, taught me a lot of how to wash away the fluff from things, throughout life. I was a screw up in school. Not that I was a troublemaker, but I just was a little bit defiant to authority, because I felt that the school system was put you in a box, come in. The schedule was just too rigid for me at an early age, even in high school. So, I wound up in the 9th grade. I coordinated a field trip back in the days when we had, when there weren't emails. We coordinated a field trip, and I wound up to school. I convinced the school to pay for the school bus, and it took a bunch of friends down to the Statue of Liberty. I got all my friends out of class. We went, we hung out, had a great day, had 2 teachers participate. Came back the next day, they called me into the dean's office, and they were like, what was this about? And I said, what's your role? I said, I'm the senior student field trip coordinator. Yeah. And he was like, he picks up the phone, calls the principal's office, and says, does this title exist? And then all I remember him saying is, I see. No, I'll handle it from here. And my life was over. And I got expelled, I got thrown out of school, and I wound up a couple of years later going and getting my GED, taking on some college, and I realized it's cold out in the real world, and field trip didn't really sound that cool to me at that point in my life. So, I had a couple of ups and downs on my journey, but I never forgot the value of being practical and working hard. My mom spent her life buying the ugliest house in the worst neighborhood, literally boarded up. Think of a North Philadelphia, Hancock and Cambria, burnt down shell. And she would buy that, and we would be living in there, and we would go to school, and then we would come home, and there would be a window. And then we would go to school, and the next day we'd come home, and then there would be a sink. And if it was a good day, there would be like running water. And I'm not lying, this is really how it was growing up. We were known as the kids who lived across the street from the we were known as the kids who lived in the haunted house. Because everybody else's house was right except the one that my mother chose to buy. But it was cheap. So for her, coming from Cuba, she was like, this is cheap. And she would buy it. And then, she fixed it and then she sold it. And that's how she kind of taught us how to buy something, get it up and running, and then go from there. They used to laugh at us a lot when we were younger. As, she kept doing that and building our portfolio. They weren't laughing anymore because it worked. And then, from there, that led me into a couple of other a couple of endeavors, entrepreneurs, and then, just wound up in Philadelphia a little bit after that.
So when I met you, we'll talk real brief about that. You were doing something in music. So talk a little bit about that. You and Rick Clark.
Yeah, me and Rick.
The wrong Clark, right? Not
no,
Dick
no,
Clark. Rick Clark.
Rick Clark, yeah, not Dick Clark. Rick Clark.
Dick Clark. No.
I used to own entertainment travel company. Basically, I owned a travel agency, and one day I just decided to write on the flyer, entertainment travel, and somebody called and said, hey, we need an entertainment travel agent. And they sent me some clients. And then next thing you know, within a year, we were booking tours for Usher, Nelly, Diddy. Yeah, really, it was just a sentence I wrote on the top of my flyer. Because what I did is I said, let me be who I want to be. So I really put it on the flyer. And then somebody called, and it's like if you're a mechanic, you could just be a mechanic, and you could just put specializing in a Lexus, and people who own Lexus are going to call you. So that's what I did with the flyer. So we went from leisure travel to entertainment travel, and we had an office in New York and LA, and we ran like 10 years with it, and it was fantastic.
Okay. And that was you and Rick.
Yeah, that was me and Rick, yeah. I met Rick, he was one of the people that called me for some travel.
So when I met you, you were doing student housing. So back then, 2006, 2007, nobody was in student housing. Like, Robert was the first person I knew into it. So how did you get into that, and tell me sort of what worked there and what didn't? Because that's changed a lot as well.
Yeah. Student housing came as I entered real estate. So we got pushed out of the New York market because as my parents sold the property, the barrier of entry to come back in and buy something was higher than when they first got it. So my mom wound up buying in South Jersey in Camden, and again, looking for the worst neighborhood and the worst house. I think it was part of her formula, right? And then...
Except she missed the Camden, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think she...
Yes.
I think that was a strike. Yeah, that was a strike, yeah. So as we came over here, the prices were cheaper, and I went and I took a course to learn how to buy properties at the sheriff's sale here in Philadelphia. I went to the sheriff's sale. I bought a house on Lehigh for $3,500. Started doing some work. This was in 2004, 2005. And I bought the property. We threw some white paint on the front of it. Some lady came and said she wanted to buy it to open a salon. She gives me $4,000 deposit and $4,000 on a payment plan. And I paid $3,500, so I was like, okay, this works. And then, so basically, I realized that you can buy real estate pretty cheap in Philadelphia. So then we bought another property really cheap and had a contractor fix it. That contractor wound up working with us for a couple of years. Other people were interested in what we were doing from New York because it was so cheap compared to the New York price, in Philadelphia. And they would say, hey, well, we'll buy a house and if your guys can fix it. I said, no, I got one better for you. How about, and this is going to lead into the student rental. We would say, come out, we put them in a van, we drove them around the city, we showed them all these properties that were on the sheriff's sale, because they don't do sheriff's sales in New York. So we drove around, we showed them all the properties on the sheriff's sale, we gave them an invoice on what it would cost to fix each property, and then we would go to the auction and bid on their behalf. If they won the property, they gave us a deposit. If they won the property, then we would do the construction job and manage it, and if they didn't, they get the deposit back. So we just started developing a portfolio like that, and we would get all these construction jobs and mark up the properties as well, and it worked out pretty well. And then we started focusing on Temple because people consider student rental to be pretty safe because parents pay or college, and you're going to be there. Parents don't always pay, but they think student rentals are pretty safe, and I agree because the institutions maintain the area. So that's how we got into. So the investors buying in smaller neighborhoods wound up leading us to get into the Temple neighborhood.
Yeah. And one of the things that Robert was doing, especially really ahead of anybody else that I had seen, was he'd really taken everything to scale. So you had a construction company that was, how many crews did you have at the height?
We had 13 crews at the height.
13 crews at the height.
13 crews, yeah.
So they had, somebody was just going around and placing students. It was a very, very, just very scaled business. And he was in at the early end, and we'll get to, you definitely sold some of those and did well on them, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we and investors did well too,
Yes.
And a lot of people did well because we really didn't have the foresight to know that the numbers were going to be what they are now. It was incredible.
Yes, in fact, when we went out to lunch the first time in July, I was telling Robert that I remembered him vividly telling me, and remember when we were talking about this, and I was like, hey, why don't you buy a little further in? Because he was sort of buying at the outskirts of Temple at the time, and he's like, oh, those properties are like 10 grand more if you go in like 4 blocks. Meanwhile, like those properties that were like 10 grand more are now like 100 grand more. Yes. Like the numbers at Temple have really just swelled to numbers that make me go, wow, I wish there was a time, we were just talking about it, I wish there was a time machine, because I remember when you could buy a lot at Temple for $10,000, $12,000 on 18th Street, and now you're at $220,000, $240,000. So
that's because people want to buy when they see everybody else doing it. So so I guess paying honor to my mom, she did it when nobody else was doing it, and then when she fixed the property and the neighborhood got better, she got in at an early number. She just had to sacrifice the time a little bit, So that's what happened there.
So you're like a second generation real estater then?
Yeah, by default.
Okay. So the next part we talked a little bit about the crash before and how bad it was. For myself, I'll tell you flat out, my 2008 to 2012 were the worst 4 years of my career. Had 100 doors, mostly Section 8 oriented. Not what I wanted to do, not the space that I wanted to be into. I've always sort of wanted to do a little bit of a higher finish, and when you're in that kind of a space, you need a new sink. It's give me the cheapest sink, give me the cheapest faucet. Everything is about squeezing a penny instead of trying to make things nice. What did that crash look like for you? Because it was bad for everybody.
Can you guys hear me without the microphone? Oh, great, okay. The crash was rough, and when I say rough, it's because we were scaling. So basically, we were just buying building after building after building because we would go and get a loan from their company or other companies, and then we would turn around and then get the building up and running, refinance it, get construction money, keep going from there, go to the next one. It was like a cookie cutter system. Buy it, fix it, rent it, boom, boom, boom. And then one day, you go to the bank, and the bank is, so we're not doing loans anymore. So now we have 12 buildings that are rented, but we have like 15 buildings that are vacant because we're anticipating it's in the system. But the system changes when they pull the bank money out. So now I'm sitting on a portfolio of some rented and some vacant properties. And then the vacant properties start eating up at the rented properties. That's what happens. That's the reality of it. So it sounds good when somebody tells you, hey, I own 27 buildings, but it doesn't sound good when 15 of them are vacant and 12 of them are occupied. And out of the 12, you got like 15 tenants that are facing a depression because mom and pop are both getting laid off from the factory and they're losing their work. And then you can't evict because the city created a moratorium on eviction because of the recession. All these things started playing in. And that's what I encountered. And that's what had me waking up at 3, 4 in the morning, just looking up, like just literally, like go to sleep at 10, okay, tomorrow's another day. And literally at 1 in the morning, just like, and just hearing, and I call it the dogs barking. I would remember the dogs chasing me. I was having nightmares of dogs chasing me, and I think the dogs were the lenders. And then I owed the money to. Really, I'm serious. So I was like, they just, because they would, you had to pay. You had to complete what was due to you. And the recession humbled me. It taught me, a couple of lessons. One, it taught me to go back to my practical roots, like survive on what you need. You had to dumb yourself down. I literally was doing returns at Home Depot to get the receipts, the gift card to restock on materials to satisfy service calls. Like that's how bad it got because everything just came to a grinding halt. And we wound up losing about 7, 8 buildings. Had to turn them back in. We couldn't keep them. Some of them now, if I drive by them, I look at them, I'm like, man. But it was what it was. We wound up keeping a lot of the rental portfolio, and I wound up making it, thank God, I wound up making it through the recession on my rental income. And that was a testament to what I was doing works because I didn't go get a job. My job was to make sure that these properties maintain themselves and keep a roof over my head and just put your head down, go to work and grind it out for a little while. So I made it through the recession with my scars. I lost buildings. We went from 13 crews to 1 crew.
1 crew.
Right? Because there was nothing to work. 1 crew was like my handy people now.
Yes.
People wound up leaving Philadelphia, went back to the countries because they were like, I get more work in Brazil. Real talk like that.
That's right. A lot of your workers used to be Brazilian, right? Portuguese. Because
Yeah,
I remember the first time I was like, I
have
have a little bit of Spanish, and I was like, I don't understand a word they're saying. And you're like,
neither did I.
talking Spanish.
Neither did I.
Yes.
But they'll build the heck out your house, right? And so that's how we made it through the recession. The recession taught me that to get practical and dumb, we had to dumb ourselves down and just get down to the bare roots of it. And all that fluff about owning a lot of stuff and everything really didn't matter. You just had to make your nut and keep it going.
So, and also, we had the same stick thrown in our spokes as we were going down. We were like on a bike riding down there with a little bit of swagger, and somebody just jammed a broomstick right in the sticks over the handlebars. So one of the things that happened to Robert is what he's talking about. Same thing sort of happened to my company with, you got to the point where, okay, what was my original box, everybody? 700 credit score, 20 grand in the bank, and your job for 2 years? That no longer got a refinance done. That number basically went to like a 780, like 60 grand in the bank. And so you couldn't even take your model before and sell to other investors because nobody could get the refis on the way out either, right?
Well, yeah, remember, absolutely. One, you couldn't refi. So when we were borrowing at 16% from his company and from other companies.
Yes.
Now people are like, wow, 16%. That's a lot, right? $100,000 loan was, I don't even know what it was at that point. So we were paying these mortgages off every month, interest only.
Say 144 a month.
Right, there you go. Yeah, you would know.
132 or 145,
right.
I can't remember.
So we're paying 16% interest only every month, but we're making a good amount of rent money. But then when the crash hit, then you're not making that money anymore. People aren't paying rent. So then the 16% doesn't really sound that good. So yeah, so you couldn't get a refi. They literally wanted you to be picture perfect to get a refinance during the time of the recession. That's another thing I learned.
Yes.
We were very gung-ho, like, my credit doesn't matter, we're good, we got money coming in, we got rentals and this and this and that. But at the end of the day, when the bank said, no, you got to look really, really, really good on paper, we had to go back and start getting pretty to look good on paper.
So, real estate crisis ends, things are starting to come back. How do you get into Airbnb?
All right, that's a good one. I moved back to New York in 2013, roughly, and one question changed. It really has changed my life. And it wasn't a question that was asked of me. It was really more the question that I asked. So a friend of mine, I was going from my apartment in New York back and forth to manage my real estate, the buildings that made it through the storm. You know?
How many did you own, by the way? I'm not at that point where.
At that point with the Airbnb?
Well,
or
when you own,
total?
Yeah, after the crash, how many did you own in Philadelphia?
One of keeping 14.
14, okay.
14 buildings, most mixed units and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine knows that I'm going back and forth to come and manage my properties, and I go back into, and I will go home on the weekends and so forth, and says to me, hey, why don't you Airbnb? 2013. And I was like, and the question that changed my life was, what's that? What's Airbnb? And what I learned at that moment is sometimes opportunities come your way. You just have to be open to it. Somebody may come and say, hey, why don't you, and you'd be like, I don't do that. But why don't you really ask what that is and find out if that may be something you can do. So if I wouldn't have asked what's Airbnb, I wouldn't have gone into her explaining it to me, and then what she did, and I went into a computer and I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, this is different. Okay, and I got my phone and I took some pictures of my apartment and I wrote up a little description, and in 48 hours I got a booking for $328. 2 young girls were coming for a weekend to Prospect Park to come to a funk festival. So I'm there with my daughter Natalie. She's about to go to college, I think. And we're sitting there and waiting for the girls, and I'm just like nervous. I'm like, I don't even know who's coming. So the girls come, and they show up, and as I open the door and I let them in, I'm like, hello, and I greet them. They come in, and they're like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, and I give them the keys, and my daughter's just looking at me like, okay, what's going on here? She's like, what's this weird exchange? Like, I don't know who these girls are. And we walk out the door, and when I walk out the door, she says, Daddy, do you know them? And I'm like, no. And she says, and you're just gonna leave them in your house? And I was like, yeah. She was like, Daddy, you crazy? And I was like, I know. And I was like, let's go get a sandwich. So we went for a walk. And then we came back to Philadelphia. On Monday, I come back home. And I'm by myself, and I get to the door. When I get to the door, I take a deep breath, and I'm like, I'm gonna open this door, and my whole place is gonna be empty. That's what I was thinking. And I opened the door, and it was better condition than what I left it. And it was a thank you note under a table. And I was like, oh. And as I'm reading the thank you note, my phone goes, ring. That's the Airbnb sound. I get another booking. $711, 7 nights. I was like, oh. So basically within the first 2 months, I was generating enough money from my one apartment to pay my entire rent. And I still had, time available in my place. So I was like, okay, now I'm rent free. So
this was your own primary house.
That was my residence. Like,
yes.
That's my stuff, like where my underwear's on my drawer stuff.
Yeah. That takes a lot of gumption, no doubt about it. Fortitude might be the term there.
That's actually my beautiful sister who just walked in with the black coat. That's one of the two. So I started renting my property out more and more, and then it got to the point that I just started renting a lot because that was like a very hot point for Airbnb. And my property went to like 94% occupied in year 1. So not only did I not pay rent, I made enough money to actually go and get another property.
All right, so that brings us to our next question. And this is a question I think that's going to blow some people's minds here. How many Airbnbs do you have right now?
We have, I speak in third person, I learned that from my lawyer. So when I say we, that's where that comes from. We have 17 buildings with multiple units, and we manage, consult, or advise for 73 others, so we're at a total of 90. 90 units, yeah. 90
units. And then this is the other one that's going to, and before we go, my ADD is going to kick in. Robert and I are Facebook friends, and you want to do this one? I don't know, it was a Facebook post, we didn't talk about this, but I know it was one of the ones that made me go like, wow, we're in a world that's changing really fast. So I'll start it, you see if you can finish. The #1 bookseller in America is?
Oh. The #1 bookseller?
Yeah. Who's the #1 bookseller in America? Amazon. How many stores do they have?
None. Largest landlord in the world.
Go ahead. You finished. Anybody out there?
Airbnb. How many buildings do they own? None.
0.
Right.
Who's the biggest taxi company? He just gave it away. Thanks for spelling it.
Biggest taxi limousine company in the world. Uber, Lyft, second. Via, third. How many cars do they own? None.
So how many realtors do we have in the room? I have my license. This is a scary thought. I want you guys to put your hand over your belly button to protect yourself from getting impaled. Let's pretend it's 5 years from now. Largest brokerage house in the country is XYZ. How many agents do they have? None. Does that now not seem like possible? And if you would have said to me in 99, any of those 3 statements, I would have been like, I think you need to go like for a head exam, and you're just talking a lot of nonsense. So like we're in a very fast changing world, but that was one that really made me go like, whoa, that we're really at a fast
that was a post, actually.
change. Things are moving real fast.
Well, here's what happened. When I rented my property in New York and it was paying itself off, of course, if you're in this, you're like, okay, well, how do I do this again? And I was like, wait, I own property in Philadelphia. So then I came and I started in Temple because it seemed like the safest area. So I started with one on Cleveland Street, boom, started booking. Then I went to Bovere Street, boom, started booking. Then I went to the office and I told the manager, my former manager, okay, listen, what are we not renewing anymore? She looked at me like, are you crazy? I said, yes, we're not going to renew anything anymore. So I looked at the portfolio and I kind of picked and chose which ones I thought were viable for the vacation home industry, and some aren't. Some aren't still viable. I know they won't, because there's some places I won't send people, where we own. And we started converting all the properties over into vacation home rentals. So I spent 2014 and 15 and a little bit of 16 converting everything, and I did it, very systematically but very peacefully. I just told people we're not renewing. I gave them their notice. They found somewhere to go, and little by little, as someone would leave, we would renovate the property. Someone would leave, we would renovate the property, and we put it back on the market. So it created an incredible amount of revenue, which was fantastic, but it even gave me an incredible amount of peace of mind. Because when some people ask me, well, what's one of the benefits of Airbnb? And all those here who own, sold, rented, you're going to appreciate this. They leave. Okay, they leave. They pay you in advance, and they leave, and that's beautiful. So that's why it works. And then as we created our portfolio, then I met an owner, that said, was complaining about an eviction, and I said, well, I'll rent your property. It's good. I'll rent it for you. Oh, and I said, yeah, I'll pay you the month. This is what I do. I develop, I build Airbnb units. I'll rent it for you. He gave me the lease. We rented it. It goes on the market. And then that's what created Co-Host, which is the company we founded, which now what we do is we literally take owners' properties and we convert them into vacation home rentals. So basically, I am your perfect tenant. We pay on time every month. The unit looks immaculate. And you just receive your money monthly, but you know what we do.
Once again, starting and scaling already. So, and this is the number, this is the question that's going to make you go, wow. And if it doesn't, then maybe you should go to like an Amway presentation or some sort of multi-level marketing. How many cities are you in?
5.
5
cities.
What are the 5 cities?
Philadelphia is our base of operations because this is where we own the property, so we train people here. We're in Fort Lauderdale. We're in North Jersey, closer to New York, on North Bergen. We're in Lisbon. We have a JV deal in Lisbon, Portugal, and we're about to we're about to be in Atlanta. That's already it.
So you've taken taking that scale idea of like. Okay,
oh, I'm sorry, New York,
and
then we're going to Atlanta. Sorry.
And then you're going to Atlanta.
New York. Yeah.
So you take that model that works once, and then you just replicate the bejesus out of it in its shortest terms.
Yeah. So basically, you know what works, and you really have to be disciplined and humble about what you're doing, and look at it, and then you got to go find a market that works for you, and then duplicate your system. But you can't go duplicate your system until you perfect it, not perfect it, but till you have a system in place.
Because if you grow too fast, what happens?
You implode.
Exactly.
Yeah, you implode immediately. That's
Yes.
what happened in Temple. Yeah,
Yes.
you implode.
Yes. So I'm always fascinated by systems, and so when you're going to scale like that, what kind of systems do you have, and how much staff do you have?
We have 5 individuals per city. Depending on how many units, it normally would run about 5 individuals per city.
And then what are
which
the
is
roles?
which is truthfully is your 4 cleaning crew, because your turnover is really the most important part, and then your ground operations person.
Okay.
So my ground operations person is the guy who handles everything that goes on with the unit, from a doorknob, like the minor maintenance, to I got to go to Home Depot and buy another 16 garbage cans, whatever the case is. That's your ground operations person. And then the cleaning crew are the people that just come in and turn the unit over and over and over as somebody's leaving. But they're not just cleaning. Our cleaning, we have a manual, so they clean and everything is checked, like the light bulbs, the handles on the refrigerator, because when a person walks in, it has to be perfect every single time.
So you have a checklist for everything that needs to be
Actually, we have a check app.
A check app. Okay.
Yeah, there's an app that we use where each property there's a picture of the property, a live picture of the property, and it has little marks on it on what they have to do. So as my cleaning person is going through the property and she comes and she polishes off the lamp, she touches it, it clears. Then she comes over here, she adjusts this, she touches it, it's clear. It has to be exactly how I preset it. And then when the job is over and she's leaving the property or he's leaving the property, when they touch it, if they miss one of the points, it'll give them an X, it doesn't clear. So that means that they have to go back and they missed something. We'll show them what they missed. And then they do it. So that means that every single job is perfect. That's because I got beat up a lot, with bad reviews. So I had to go get a nap.
So in the bad reviews, so let's talk about bad reviews. So
Let's not.
And it's one of those things I can tell you. It's one of those things like where you read something and you're like, oh, that's just true. Like it hurts. you're like,
yes.
I think I have an idea.
I love that. That's actually true.
It hurts.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time. I spoke at a little, I guess, to a group of investors in Dover, and one of the things that I'm really big on is accountability. And I'm like, it's very hard to take that accountability because it feels like you're just really taking a knife in the stomach, but it's really you who's done that. Like if you've gotten burned by a contractor, chances are it was your fault, right? I got beat by a guy for, it was a vet, started a concrete job, poured the form, said I need $1,000 for concrete, and then never came back. Stalked him, pissed at him, and I'm like, you know what? That's my fault, not his. Like, it hurts to be like, yeah, you're the one who screwed that up, and that's why he walked. I should have said to him, you bring the truck here, I'll pay with my credit card, and I would have had $1,000 in my pocket instead of his. But like, these are the kinds of things. So like, when you see that, you know that it hurts. So imagine the bad reviews are going to be sort of the same way. Like, you see it coming. And then when you take the step back, you're like, hey, this is something that I indirectly caused.
Well, you see it coming after it happens. And
yes.
then you're like, oh, I didn't get back to that. So that's when you see it coming. So the bad reviews, when you're flowing and everything is working, you're like, it's just one here and there. You kind of let it go. But you can't. Every review is important. You see, we're in the sharing economy is here to stay, people. This is the truth. I want there was this quote that I read recently. It said, the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist feels that the wind may stop, the realist adapts to the wind. So you have to adapt to the changes. We're in a changing economy now. Like we were saying before, so many things are happening and they don't own inventory. So it's a very transparent world as well. The sharing economy comes with transparency, meaning that how many people here, when you're gonna go buy something, read the reviews? Raise your hands. How many people, when you're gonna go to a restaurant, read the review in the restaurants? Okay, so when you're presenting somebody, when you're gonna go stay at somebody's house, you read the reviews too. You know, at a property. So transparency is key, and you have to be very comfortable with being very naked in front of the world online. That means that they're going to come to your place and they're going to reveal everything about you. So you got to put your best. You got to put on your best performance. When something bad would happen in a review and they wrote about it, we understood that it was on us. And then you try to go back and address it. But some people are professional review writers. I had this one lady. She wrote me such a bad review. I told her, I was like, can I pay for her to stay at one of my competitors' places? That's how bad. I was like, oh my God, like
yes.
But
she got that degree in literature. And she's
oh my God, right?
So she's gonna write a bad
she had me
review.
feeling bad, right? But what I did learn is I used to try to avoid them, or I would kind of rebuttal. But I stopped that early on. What I did was somebody gives me a bad review, I accept it, and I say, you know what, you're right, it's our fault.
It's accountability.
It's accountability.
It hurts a little bit.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It hurts.
Accountable. And then what I do is I say, well, how do we go back and fix this so it doesn't happen again? The only challenge with that is when you have a large portfolio, one issue that came up might need adjusting 53 times on the board. So it's a little bit different. But, we take full accountability when something happens, and we've gotten better. We've gotten a lot better with the reviews now. And it'll affect you. You'll go from like 95% occupied to like 60% occupied. And that's a big difference. You'll go from a $3,000 a month to a $1,200 a month, on the same property. So you have to be conscious to what you're putting out as a good product. And you have to make sure that you take heed to the reviews that they're giving you. And don't think that just because it's something that doesn't bother you, it's to be dismissed. Because you're not paying for your place, they are. So you have to respect what the people are asking for. That's very solid.
So let's talk a little bit about your team. So you have 5 people in each city. What do you look for in team members? Because I'm always fascinated on how people build staff, because this is the hardest part of any kind of business, right? You got people who just want to leave because they might see a greener pasture somewhere else. Maybe they oversold themselves and they can't actually deliver the product that they're saying. I'm going to let you go on that. You tell me. What do you look for when you're building a team members?
I guess people look for things that they're kind of similar or relatable to. So one is definitely practicality. They can't be too, I guess the word is floofy. Like, you just gotta understand it. Listen, we gotta go in there, we're gonna get our hands dirty, we gotta get this job done. You know, the people that we're servicing can't know that anything is wrong. We may know, but they can't know. So they gotta be just very grounded on, sometimes you gotta go a little farther than the call of duty.
Sure.
Right? That's very important. Dedication is important, but not dedication. See, I don't have, staff is okay, but I wouldn't even say I have employees. Like, we're a team. Like, everybody on my team is a team. Like, from the cleaning person to my ground operations and all the way up, I view everybody equally. So you have to, at the top of your game, or whoever's running your business has to treat everybody with that, so then they give you that back in return. Okay. I will be abroad. I was, from October 1st to the 15th, I was in Europe on tours, and people were handling things that I didn't even need to instruct them on because teamwork. So okay. Open to teamwork, some dedication, and some practicality is very important.
How often do you have meetings with them? Like
once a month.
Once a month. Okay, so once a month, everybody comes into one of your units.
At one of the units, yeah.
And we have a sit down. Hey, this is what's working. This is what's not working.
Yes. I asked them. First question I asked them is, what can I do to make your lives easier? First thing I was asking.
All right, and then.
And they tell me.
Okay.
They do.
And once again, this is for anybody who's running multiple crews, right? This is sort of the same thing. When you have like a unit that needs to turn over, do you have contractors, or are you just subbing that out at this point? Like if you're trying to do a new unit and you.
Oh yeah, we have a team that goes in, and we have a renovation team, and we go in. I participate in that because I enjoy it. One of the joys of doing this is like when we go to a new unit and we go shopping to buy some stuff. If I like it, like I'll keep it and then I'll send something from my house. So like I'm always redecorating my house. You listen, you gotta enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? So, but yeah, so we have a team that does that, and we go in and we knock it out. But it's kind of cookie cutter because if you look at our portfolio, we have the same, pretty much we have the same brown couches, we have the same 3 color linens, we have the same 80% of the unit minus the artwork. The artwork is what changes it up a bit. But so when something goes wrong in a unit, we literally have moved one couch from one unit to another because it was broken, but that was vacant.
Very similar to your college stuff. All of Robert's college stuff looked exactly the same. I could go into anything that Robert owned, and I'd be like, Robert Nunez owned this or renovated.
The blue doors.
Of the two.
The blue doors.
The blue doors. He used to use peel and stick
Morocco
tiles.
tile.
Yeah, Morocco tiles. Because once again, college students just being hard on stuff, you don't want to, and this was before people were putting in hardwood in that respect, but once again, much more practical for like your 99 cents or about a square foot, and then somebody moves out, you just put Lawan down and rinse and repeat, and just do it all over again.
Well, yeah, because when you're developing a portfolio of vacation homes, and somebody calls into the office or reaches out and says, hey, my remote's not working, we know exactly the remote because it's a universal remote across every property. Or how do you open the sofa bed? It's not which one. It's like click forward, click back. You have to kind of think of and this comes from calls that we've gotten. So every time that we receive a call, I'm like, well, how do we stop from getting this call again in the future? And we constantly write manuals, we'll input information onto the website. So we give as much information as possible to reduce the phone from ringing. I believe that for the amount of units that we're involved in, we have a pretty good reduction of contact with the guests regarding to issues.
Yeah. Best guest is one that's not calling you or you're calling them.
That's the best guest. The one that checks in, checks out, and gives a good review. And you never met him. Right? I love them.
So this is a little bit of a harder question. When do you know so I imagine you've got your teams. So let's say you're in 5 cities. You've got, I'm just going to do some quick math, around 25 people on your teams. Roughly. How do you determine when somebody's going to get let go, and what does that look like?
When something goes wrong, depending on what it is, but if something goes wrong at a unit, I accept full responsibility first. It was my fault. Because either I didn't produce what needed, I didn't have what was there for it not to happen, or I didn't communicate properly to the person to avoid it from happening. Happens again, then we're going to have a conversation because it's like, okay, you have all the resources there, and then we cut ties. We don't go third. There's 2 strikes.
2 strikes.
Yeah, I'm not a major league fan.
Okay.
Yeah, because that number one, I respect families and people who are coming. This is their vacation. This may be the only vacation that these people take all year, so I have to give them the best product I can as possible. It's not just a guest. There's a reason. I have a family. We travel. You want to enjoy where you go, so I take that very personally. And number 2, if they're not conscious of what they're doing and it's just a job to them, then they're in the wrong place because we're not just a job. Like I said before, we're a team.
Sure. And a lot of the stuff that Robert's talking about, that applies to other stuff. So if you're in construction, that idea of having all of the same stuff, buying it at volume, reusing it, keeping it the same, how you handle your staff, whether it's meetings once a month, once a week, however that looks like, you kind of go from there. I mean, these all apply to other facets of real estate, which is, once again, whether or not you want to start doing what Robert does, whether you don't, regardless, you should be able to get some value out of that, and how you have this kind of, and more than anything else, the accountability. And one, like I said, it's something that it's a constant work in progress, and it's probably one of my bigger struggles. That and gratitude are probably my two things that I'm working on right now for myself, of just, like sending thank you notes, gift cards, stuff like that, just as a general.
But if you hold
process.
if you hold yourself accountable, that means then you can fix it. You don't have to go talk to somebody. You don't gotta have a meeting. You did it.
Yeah.
So you fix it, and then if it happens again, then either you didn't fix it right, or then you gotta go look at somebody else. So start with you, and then after you go to the next person, and then after that, cut them short.
So the next thing I want to talk about is.
Oh wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
And this is important. I got my 2-strike cut. My system is because I prolong letting people go. You have this sense of loyalty, the sense of you've been with me from the beginning, the sense of I'm gonna let I know that you need this job. Well, that hurts you as a business owner, and I'm not trying to be insensitive about it. But the truth of the matter is, if your ship sinks, then they're gonna sink anyways. So have consideration for the other people on your boat, and tell them, hey, you gotta go. And that's something that everybody can't do. But eventually, either you're gonna be made to do it, or it's gonna be too late, and you're all gonna be out.
Okay. So the next question is one of these ones where when we were talking, just sort of made me go like, wow. So let's say I want to go buy an average duplex. We'll take Philadelphia just because most people here. Who's a Philadelphia? We'll just go. I mean, I know we're in Montgomery County, but
Okay.
So your average duplex probably in Philadelphia right now is going to cost you about what, 150 grand?
You still pay that? No, you're right.
About 100. It's
Yeah.
just as a general rule of
Yeah.
thumb, right? 150 grand is probably like a pretty good number all in. Bank's gonna want you to put down 20%, so you're gonna have 30 grand in there. If you were to rent, and this is where I love this model of leverage, especially leveraging other people's money, and I even had a couple of ideas on that. So how much does it cost you to set up an Airbnb as opposed to that? So let's say you take my property and you want to rent it. What does that look like? Why is that a better model than actually
What's
even
your rent
owning
number?
it?
Give me your number, real quick. Just your
Of what I think it costs to set
No,
up
your
an
rent.
Airbnb?
What's your rent? Give me your rent price.
Let's say I'm bringing in on that $150,000 duplex. Let's say I'm getting $1,800 a month.
So it'll cost me $7,600 to get an Airbnb. Basically, it's $4,000 to get a unit up and running, plus 1 month rent, 1 month security. Simple cookie cutter. I go look at a building. I may add $200-300 depending on how many bedrooms, but my formula is between $3,800 to $4,200 for every unit, plus 1 month rent, 1 month security. And we don't pay security anymore because we're so our payment is so guaranteed that owners literally just say, just break the security down into 5 payments with your rent, because they want to give us up. Like, we went from not having properties to having a waiting list of properties. So basically, to answer this question accurately, $4,000 gets you the unit up and running aesthetically, and your 1 month rent, and if you're paying the security. So here's a formula. So if you're gonna pay $30,000 a deposit, let's use $1,000 rent.
Yep.
So let's say you get a 2-bedroom for $1,000. You pay $1,000 rent, $1,000 security, and then you have $4,000 to get up and running. That's $6 grand, right? To buy that same 2-bedroom, you might have had to put $30,000 down, or buy level. You put $30,000. So $30,000 would buy you as an owner 1 property. You have maintenance, insurance, and everything else that comes with it. $30,000 with us gives you 5 units, 5 vacation home rentals. They're rentals, they're not yours. But now, are you going to just make on that 1 unit you bought, you have 1 rental income coming in? That person blinks, drops the ball, you're paying. But on 5 vacation home rentals, you have a platform of properties that you can pick and choose and move around. The same 30 grand. You let those properties make you money, and then you go and buy another property that you want to own. But so basically it's the same as buying to rent, but without the 30-year mortgage. You really have a 1 or 2 year lease. That's what it is. That's the leverage game.
It's almost like a car. You're just leasing it.
You're leasing it and making profit every
Yeah,
month.
almost if you want to take sort of what Robert's doing and put it into like a real world application, think Hertz, right?
Right.
They're leasing a car, leasing miles on it, and renting it out to you by the day, by the weekend, by whatever. But I mean, go look at what a monthly rental costs on like Hertz. You want to do like a Ford Focus. it's a $300 payment at most, and you go to lease it from Hearst, they want like $1,700 for the month. And you're like, it's just a couple of pennies profit
and I encourage owning because I'm an owner. We've done well because I own. I encourage owning, but I also encourage grabbing the momentum of what we're in right now. So you could grab this momentum, build your portfolio, build your money. Some people may not even want to just keep buying. Some people may just need that extra $500,000 a month because you got some stuff that you want to take care of. Or you have college tuition, or you have some bills that you just don't want to deal with. So, or you may have some extra space in your house. You may have that basement, that beautiful finished basement that somebody moved out of. That could be, so instead of just spending it just to buy a unit, you might be able to leverage your money and get multiple units, get them up and running, and then, take the proceeds as they come in, and then invest that money to buy something. And then when you're done, you get out of the lease, or you continue it. Or you call us, and maybe we'll take it from you, because now you own the furniture in it too, so you're gonna have it. Like, we have like 80 couches, things like that.
Yeah. So, and I'm even gonna take that one higher. So, well, if you have good credit, what's to stop you from going to a Raymore and Flanagan, getting like 18 months before you gotta make a payment on your furniture, putting that in, and now you're into a unit for like $2,000?
That's a good idea.
Just free flowing on that one.
I'm gonna sit down here. Let's go. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Right? And the other
thing,
thing,
that's a good idea.
just and you can go furniture store to furniture store. There's a lot of chains.
I'll tell you why. Because it deviates from our system.
That's true.
Because I can't.
You might have started too late with that system.
No, but that's good. Yeah, it deviates because there has to be a Raymore Flanagan in whatever cities we're in. Because we're very disciplined to our
Correct,
system.
but you could do that in Philadelphia. The other space that when we were just talking about this, that I sort of love is, let's say, I got an 18-year-old son, he's going to go off to school, I think, next year, but comes home, he's ready to get his first apartment, and you sort of do what you were doing with your house, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, if I can rent it, great. If not, when it's rented, I just go stay somewhere else. So, like, it takes sort of that leap of going out on your own and takes a little bit of the sting off of it.
Yeah.
I sort of see that as another, like, for somebody who just wants to do like one or two, where you got your apartment, you got someplace else you can stay. Why not rent it when you're not there?
That's absolutely true.
You got to do something with your underwear.
No. You have to have storage. Let me tell you something now. Once it's addictive. Once you start it, you want to rent all the time. Like, I've crashed. My sister knows. I've crashed her couch. I've slept in my office. I've taken a midnight flight because the layover was long because I needed somebody to check out. Like, it is addictive because you can't say no to the money, right?
It's funny you bring that up because I just had that conversation with my sister. She's addicted.
Yeah.
So when the U.S. Open was in Philly at Marion.
Yeah, they get crazy
said,
money.
Hey, John, can I stay at your house this weekend? And I found out why. She got $2,700 for 4 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Now
so
she saw that cash flow. She's like, her house is always open and she's staying in the
right. So it's addictive. So what I had to wind up doing is I gave up from 2014 to 2016 were my gypsy years. I was literally staying at, like, all my friends think I'm such a great dude because I visited all of them. I just really need somewhere to go. But from 2014, I'm really a cool dude. But from 2014 to 2016 were my gypsy years, because I was just everywhere because I was trying to book everything because I was building up, the portfolio. And then, this year I kind of said, okay, let me just have some personal space. My dog needs to stay home a little bit. So but it is addictive, but it's work. And it's dedication. And if anybody's interested in buying to rent properties, I would really suggest a vacation home or rent to re-rent, like what we do, because it'll give you an experience of what it is to have a unit that's not yours and how you manage it and deal with it, as opposed to just getting to a big commitment and then you realize there's something you don't want to do. It's a great way to test the waters, very truthfully.
Sure. And what are you including? This was one of my questions I want to ask before, but what are you including in that? So you got furniture, like a couch, a TV.
Yeah, I wish I was. Yeah. No, our apartments are they're decked out. First of all, every couch is a sleeper, because every couch is a body. Because people they bring people. So every couch is a sleeper. In a 2-bedroom, for example, one room has a full bed, the other room has 2 twin beds, because there'll be a couple with the kids, there'll be 2 people who don't sleep together, there'll be the couple, they just want a closet walk-in, whatever the case is, more people, and then there's a sofa sleeper in the couch, in the living room. Wi-Fi, pots, pans, basically everything you need in a vacation home, everything you will have in your apartment, minus your personal clutter. That's what they get.
What about dishwashers?
No.
Microwaves?
Yes.
Okay. Coffee makers?
Yes.
Okay.
Coffee, tea, sugar, salt, and pepper. That's what they get when they walk in. Like when you go to a hotel room. Well, I guess think of a nice hotel room.
Okay, like, so do you do ketchup and stuff like that too, or no? No, okay.
Because when somebody walks in
If it's half
and he
full,
sees
they're like-
somebody's use ketchup, you know,
Like-
it'll be like, I don't know who that is.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Valid point.
Yeah.
Just once again,
No, but
just-
that's what we did. No, we did. And
You found that out by
And
accident?
somebody reviewed me, like half-eaten food, and I'm like, this is good ketchup. So guess what? No more ketchup.
No more ketchup.
Call everybody, kill the ketchup. Thank you, Margaret
McDonald's.
from Gainesville. Yeah.
McDonald packets. Just
Yeah,
like we're here on
no, very simple. The keep it simple theories, keep it simple, stupid, theories real. Give them exactly a good quality place to stay at. They're gonna go and get whatever they need. Here's what people value the most. People value information and some personal touches. So I personally created, since I like to eat out, I like to try different places, I created what they call Bobby's list of my preferred places in the city. So every time somebody checks into one of my places, I send them all this locations where they can go. I even broke it down to my favorite dish. When I look at my reviews, they're like, place was cool, enjoyed the city, his recommendations were off the chart, I had such a good time, this is the best cheesesteak, blah, blah, blah. So you gotta figure out how to give them more, but still kind of keeping it simple where it doesn't feel overbearing, but it still serves the purpose. Because when these people travel, they're not coming in here just to see the Liberty Bell. And I wanted to touch on this. People don't just come in first of all, it's not just Airbnb. It's vacation home rentals. Airbnb is just a catchy word to use. Like, we're on 5 different platforms, every single country in the world except Syria, North Korea, and Cuba. We're everywhere else. So people are coming for different reasons. I had somebody who arrived now, which I was in the hallway. They came from the Ukraine, 47 nights, because there's something downtown called the Christmas Craft Festival in Center City.
Yeah, right at City Hall.
Right. Well, we do the housing. I didn't know that. I didn't know who they were. They were like, yeah, we're at the festival. So I guess they sell Christmas stuff, whatever. So they're here for 40-something nights, and they stay at our properties.
Christine had one where they had a Cirque du Soleil. She had Cirque du Soleil people staying in.
Right,
Hers.
right. So you have people that come in for that. I have people who are coming in for a surgery and they want to be close to the family. I have people that are hosting their Thanksgiving dinner. They all grew up in Philly. Everybody moved, but now they came back home and they want to come back to Philly just to have a reunion. I have individuals who are working on Market Street, 9th and Market, where they're putting up glass for whatever construction is going on there. You have people who are coming in for a school project, at the university. They're here for an internship. So it's not just people coming in for the weekend to hang out. There's so many different reasons that they're coming for. And long term, too.
So, how do you determine your price? Or is that just you sort of look at market price?
We pay for software to let us know what's going on in our market areas, because we're in different cities. So we pay for the software to know who has units and what they're charging. But my dumbed down formula my shower formula, I just come up with it in my shower is 15 nights has to pay the full month. That's
Love
it.
that.
Yeah, that's as easy as
Easy
it
math,
is.
yeah.
15 nights. So basically, what's the rent? $1,000. Utilities is $300, $1,300. Okay, I could rent. So 15 nights, I could do $100 a night. Okay, $1,500 puts me even. I have 15 nights of profit. That's it. So when somebody calls and says, "Hey, I got this unit," first thing I ask them is, "What's the rent?" Second thing I ask them is, "How many bedrooms?" Then I just be like, guys like, "Oh, it's worth $2,500." I'm like, "That's 25 nights. I can't do that."
Yeah.
Yeah, I just be like, "No, I'm good."
Okay.
So I try to stay within a range where 15 nights pays for my whole expense, which gives me a 50% cushion for my vacancy, because January, February, you're going to be semi-vacant. That's how it works.
So if you were going to start...
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
How do you control costs for the utilities?
That's a great one. We just recently started deciding to put Nest thermostats in some of our units to try to control it, because they do run it up a bit. But here's what happens. First, we let everybody know, please be courteous, turn off the utilities when you're not home in the summer for the AC. They don't listen, but we ask. And then our cleaning crew comes the minute they're checking out. So they immediately turn everything off. And it'll just be off until the next person checks in. That's the most you can really do.
Are you controlling this remotely at all?
That's what we're going to do. With the Nest project, we're going to have our operations manager be able to control it. But here's what's going to happen. People are going to say, 72 doesn't work for me. I need a hotter. So now what's going to happen is that's going to open up a window for more communication with the guests, which is what we don't want to do. So we might wind up making a decision where we're going to leave it, because it's really not that crazy. But I would rather have my people focus on quality units than raising the heat because Susie wants it to be hotter than Joe. And these are the kind of little comments that we get.
How do you determine your locations?
Okay, great. Other than Portugal, where, well, Fort Lauderdale a little bit too, but other than Portugal, I try to stay in metropolitans. I'm a city guy, so I like the city. I like convenience. And I've noticed that most of our guests do too, but maybe that's because we're metropolitan cities.
Yeah,
Right.
And once again, this isn't the answer for everybody. This is
Right,
just
this
your
is my answer. So I determine it by, I look at a city, just like when we were investing in real estate earlier. I look at what brings people to the city. So you have to have some tourism, work, universities, hospitals, sports,
Sure.
airports. So a reason why people are coming to a city and to an area. Rural locations work out too. Like, a little bit off the beaten path gives you those people that say, hey, listen, I just sold my house, a settlement. I couldn't buy the next house yet. I need somewhere to be for 60 days. And they don't want to leave their school zone, or they got family that wants to be a little bit away from Philly. They'll stay in the Northeast, but then they'll still come into the middle of the city. So rural locations are off works too. And coastal cities is seasonal, but I like to have 12-month money. So I like to stay in major cities.
Yeah. And once again,
Public transportation.
one of the things I see, especially when in my job where you're going out to look at loans and stuff, I see a lot of people trying to emulate somebody else's system. And you really have to sort of find out what works for you. Like, if I tried to go run a student housing program and I didn't know much about student housing, I'm going to fall flat on my face, right? Mm-hmm. So you sort of have to find what works for you. So you're saying cities work for you, but Christine has one in, where did Christine go? She disappeared on us. Oh, there she is. She's got two in Collegeville, and she's done very well with those as well.
I'll give you an example. Tiona, sitting next to my sister, she has one in Cherry Hill, right?
No, Millville.
Millville. And she does. How long was that last guest you just got?
Oh, well, they're there now.
How long are they?
They're going to be there for 3 months.
3 months. So that's the thing. It served their purpose, what she had. So what works for me is not going to necessarily say it's going to work for you. I just like the metropolitan area.
Do you have some that you start that don't work and then you're like, all right, shut that one down. That was a mistake.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
We can talk about the corporation. Like, a corporation is literally renting my house, and it's acting as like a hotel for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they rent the house, and different people can come in, but they have their own house rules within the company. So the house is rented for so much.
They Airbnb your Airbnb.
They Airbnb my Airbnb.
Yeah, I had that.
When I say it's great, it's great.
I actually had the same thing with one of my units. I had a company that rented it, a telecommunications company. They were a fantastic tenant for 5 years, and they would have people who come in for training, and they would stay there.
Yes, exactly.
And then unfortunately, that sounds very similar to what yours
and
is.
unfortunately,
that company went out of business.
I had an apartment in New York. I had it for a little while. Nokia came, they rented it. I didn't go back. I wasn't even allowed to go back for 2 years. Money came in every month for 2 years.
Okay. So how long do you find that people, what's the average stay? I mean, it sounds like it's all over the map.
Well, there's two. The average stay is 3 to 4 nights. On the majority, we're coming from Thursday to Sunday, Friday to Monday. But that's 50%. The other 50% goes between 7 to 60 nights because there's a lot of people that take the places for what they need it. You see, when you're a business and you're sending your staff away, they can't sleep in the same room, so you need a 3-bedroom. Everybody's got their own room. You don't want to pay 3 hotel rooms, so you give them 1 house. You don't want to pay parking, so it's free parking. So you have the 50% would be the short-term people, and the other 50% will be more the corporate or working class individuals or businesses that they're coming for a reason. Like we had a guy coming in for Radiant, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Radiant, they were coming in for Radiant. He did like 40 nights because he was here to work.
Do you find that you get a lot of repeat guests, or is that just something you really don't track?
No, we do. We do track it. We don't get as many repeat guests as we should. And I think we're working actually on a formula. I know we're working on a formula to get that because we have a good portfolio. So what we're going to start doing is letting them know, hey, the next time you come back, we'll give you like a 5% off. And we have these selection of properties to choose from. Stay with us, because we don't know if they're not going to return. We've had them repeat in other cities.
Okay,
that's interesting. But
that is interesting.
Yeah, we've had.
Well, and also if somebody comes for vacation, they may not come for vacation back.
Right. Or if they're here for work, they're just here to do a job, and they don't.
Sure.
But we've had referrals that we do.
Okay. We sort of touched on this. What do you do for marketing? Is it just basically your websites and that's it? You're not really doing much else?
No. There's okay. So I don't pay for advertising because the $14 million that VRBO spent and the 23 that Airbnb spent, I don't have. So they spend the marketing money. Our job is to make sure that we're on all the platforms that exist, and there's a lot of platforms that exist. That's why we're 90% occupied, 94%, because I spend a lot of time and money and energy in my advertising is really me going to conferences, learning about the business, learning the new companies that are coming out and doing this, and keeping our properties up to standards and beyond. So I'm not going to say that we spend marketing money. I really spend more learning and growth money to implement it into the business because
We're getting to that
money.
in a couple minutes. We only got a few questions left, then we're getting to mindset stuff, which is,
Okay.
once again, for everybody in this room, that is the part you should be paying attention to as well. So what's your so you're at 90 units, what's your biggest struggle right now? Because it's got to be different than it was when you were at 1. Or maybe it's not.
Yeah, no. One, I was bored and I was hungry because you just want more, right? My biggest struggle is, one of them is when we make a change, it's like a huge change. Like when we say, okay, we're gonna go with these kind of couches, it's like a lot of couches now. We know. So I have to be conscious to when I can't fly off the handle and say, well, we're just gonna do this now because it's a trickle effect all the way down. So that's one, so moderating how you make your adjustments, which means knowing that you do it as best as possible going in. So you don't have to, but there's things you're gonna have to change. And the other struggle is having the discipline to stay in your system and keep building your system and improving it, and not just running crazy with it and duplicating it everywhere and then finding out later I really missed something critical.
Okay.
So that's because when it's working, you're like, I could open businesses all over the world. I remember having these crazy conversations with myself, but you have to kind of stay in your lane a little bit and realize what you're doing.
Okay.
So controlling yourself and disciplining yourself is a struggle.
So anybody who was about to start to get into this, what would you say are some of the bigger pitfalls? I mean, you've sort of indicated some of them, but what would those pitfalls be? Growing too fast probably is the one that I'm taking.
If somebody was interested in getting into vacation home rentals and learning how it works, understand that just because you think that it's a good stay doesn't mean it is a good stay. So you want to go and do some research on it. Go to the websites and see how many units are in your area and see what they're offering. Read the reviews that people write about the people that you're considering in that neighborhood. And then, it'll kind of let you know what the range is. It's kind of like going to Truly or Zillow. Do your research. Yeah. Understand that you're not always going to be 100% full. But, you're going to rent, and you got to be flexible with what you're renting. But if you do your research, you should be okay. Talk to people who are doing it, and you'll get more information and insight from them. If you don't rent 1 month and you don't make here's a real one. Pitfall. If you're not fully rented, you're gonna pay some rent. You're gonna pay out of pocket. So can you swallow that pill? Yeah. Okay, we're good. You can't swallow that pill. Don't do this. Because that's like me telling you, buy this property and you're gonna rent and make rent money every month. And then you go to eviction. Guess what? You still got to pay your mortgage, right? So same thing with here. That's when understand that sometimes it may be a little bit on you, and that it's work. It's not just you don't just furnish the place and walk away and it works on its own. Like it requires attention.
It's not easy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's fun.
It's fun.
It's not easy. Yeah.
Not easy.
It's fun.
So you sort of stole my thunder before when you were like, I want to take this worldwide. So if you figure every state in the United States usually has like 2 major cities. I mean, you get to North Dakota and South Dakota, and like Missouri, you get a few less states. So there's potentially 100 markets just in the United States, let's just say.
Yeah.
How many of those do you see you going into? So
my goal is basically how many units I want to have.
Yeah, like in the next 5 to 10 years, where do you want to be?
In the next 5 to 10 years, I want to have 500 units in 5 cities, 100 in each city. And I want to have a ground operation team working effectively in each city. 3 in the United States, 1 in South America, and 1 in Europe.
Okay.
That's my goal.
And then your job would just be going from market to market to market.
Market to market.
Almost like
eating different food.
Almost like a permanent vacation of like, this week I'm in this city, this week I'm in this city, this week I'm in this city. So that's sort of what you see your role doing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can you ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So how do you, how do you scale yourself to like 500, 5 years down the road? I mean, do you have a team of people that are seeking out the properties for you, or yourself, Robert? Are you actually researching, properties and then putting in the contract to, secure the property for a year to 5 years? How do how do you got 10 under your belt? How do you get to 20? You know, what do you have a local realtor that you're dealing with in Philadelphia? How do you grow incrementally? How do you grow organically as far as properties?
Here, great question. How do you go? How do you scale? First, I had to understand that I didn't have enough properties to grow. So then I had to start looking for realtors, and then not realtors, for other owners. So we started talking to owners, and I would be like, "Hey, remember your unit? No, 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 yes. Okay, she got one."
And are they saying
No.
no because
They're saying no because they don't believe in it. They don't understand it.
They don't
It's not
understand.
it's not something they're used to. The biggest no is because it's different.
right?
What? You're gonna rent my house and they're gonna have parties and they're gonna destroy my place? What? You know, you're gonna have all these different people coming in here. My neighbors, my good tenants are gonna flip out. So I get, 9 no's, but then I get 1 yes. So I don't really look at it like 9 no's. I just know that my yes is number 10. That's just my mindset, So, but guess what? So, I meet this 1 yes, and that 1 yes owns, this is a true story, I meet this 1 yes, and the 1 yes owns 83 buildings. So then, now this 1 yes doesn't renew her tenants anymore. She tells me every time somebody says they're moving, they give me a property. That's in Philadelphia. So I'm gonna hit my 100 in Philly if I stay with this one person, and just like this person exists, there's now we actually work with development. So when a new construction's coming up, we come in and we say, listen, we'll take floor number 12. How many units you got? 10. We'll take all 10 of them. We will guarantee that your money comes in every month to offset any other losses you may have in the building. So now we have 10 units in one building. So that's how you do it. It's not me I'm not looking for 500 one-offs because that's it's pretty taxing. But if you can consolidate and kind of stay in a neighborhood, like we're very strong in Passyunk, we're very strong in Fishtown, we're very strong by Temple. If you could consolidate, it allows you to move a little quicker with your people. But we'll take one-offs, duplexes, but my main focus is multiple units in one building.
Questions. Because you said you did not want to have ownership of the properties. So there's the owner of the properties. If the rental agreement between you guys change, how do you handle with that?
If the ownership changes?
The owner
Uh-huh.
of the property,
Uh-huh.
the rental agreement between your owner and you change. They don't want to owe you again next year.
Or they don't want to renew?
Yeah.
Then we have to move. Yeah, we just got to put the stuff in storage and find another place. You mean if they say we're not going to renew you again?
Yes.
Yeah. We just put the stuff in storage and put it into storage and we just have another unit on standby. But before we get to the question, and you'll be the first one. I want to let him get his last one right, and then you.
We got a few more.
Oh, okay.
A few more on that.
I'm sorry, I got you. Okay.
One of the things that, and this has been a huge change in myself from around 30. The company I was working for sent me to sales school. Really changed my life. More mindset than anything else. And when I started talking to Robert, he's sort of a believer, and a lot of my friends would think I'm a little of a whack job because I'll mention like The Secret or like I use this technique, and they're like, yeah, whatever. Robert seems to be another guy like me who believes in some of this stuff. But first off, I know you wrote a couple of books. Talk about those.
Oh, okay. So I have 2 books that one is in the final stages and the other one is in editing. One is called Palante, Forward Lessons on how to move forward in life. Palante means onward in Spanish. It's 16 chapters on 16 things that broke me in my life and how I came back from them. Because we've all been broken. As Ernest Hemingway says, life breaks everyone. Some of us are stronger in the broken places. So Palante is one, that's in my second edit now. And How to Build an Airbnb Empire and Retire is the other book. Ironically enough, that's what it's called.
So eventually they'll be able to find that on Amazon or whatever. Just keep searching for it.
Yes.
Airbnb
So,
Empire.
unless I change the name a little bit, but yeah, that's the goal.
Okay. So, and this
The
is
writing is therapeutic.
and this is something that I just started doing thanks to when I met Robert this summer. Has made a huge difference in my productivity. Talk about journaling, and I know you brought a couple to give away actually. I spilled the beans on that one. I'm sorry. But talk about the journaling.
Okay, so about 23 years ago, a friend of mine, rest in peace, he used to write on a piece of paper the little things he had to do every day. And then he would work at it all day. So I was just like, I looked at it and I started doing it. But then as I took to it, I started actually developing into a craft. Now it's just a habit. Now it's just really brushing my teeth. So I journal every day of my life. I have about 14 years of journals in my house in my library. When people ask me what's my most valuable possession, I say my library. And at the bottom of it is all my journals. And the reason I journal is because I've become 95% effective because of my journaling. And the way it works is every day, at the beginning of the year, I'll write what I want my year to look like and what I want to achieve. And not financially, just as a person. You know, where do I want to be at this year? You know, and I'm very honest about it. And then, you know, once a month I'll write what are the major targets I want to achieve this month. Things that are going to really change my next month. Then it gets, so I'll write, this is just in the beginning, right? And then I'll write the monthly goals, right? And then this is where, and look up, I don't let it go, I can't be without it. So on Sunday, I write a line down the middle because I have multiple businesses, right? But for example, I write real estate, personal, faith, co-host, book, health. Those are my 6 topics that I write. I write a line.
Franklin did something very similar to that,
Yeah?
by the way. Yeah, he used to take 1 week to work on everything. But
Right. So I put the line down the middle. I write on Sunday, I'll write all the major things that I want to accomplish this week. I write them down. I don't create a list of just things to do. I don't write go to the bank. I don't write pay my cell phone. I don't write that. Those are things that we just do. I write things that actually matter because my time matters. You know. Then on Monday, I'll carry some things over, and on Monday, 10/29, whatever, I'll start writing things from the Sunday list. I write it down. As I'm going through my day, I start checking them off. You see my journals for the checklists of check marks. I check it off. I'm doing something, I check it off. I'm doing something, it's with me. Sometimes I'll leave my cell phone, but I have my journal. Check, check, check. When I miss something, I'll write an O next to it. The next day, when I start my list for Tuesday, I carry my O's over because I missed them. And then I still keep carrying some other stuff. Now, everything on my list isn't disciplined to the point that it's only what I started on Sunday. You're going to have other things that come up during the week, right? You know, you woke up, your transmission went. You got to go to the mechanic. You know, it is what it is. You woke up, you had a flat tire today. I got to go check the slow leak. You know, so you start writing those things down. And then on Wednesday again, by the time Thursday comes along, I literally take a moment, cup of coffee, whatever, and I look back and I look at my beginning of the week because I go check, you know, I go back and forth checking and I'm seeing what am I missing. And I carry that over to Thursday and Friday. My journals pretty much go 7 days a week, but, you know, work-wise, most is kind of like 6. And then by the time Saturday comes around, I'm pretty much like 9 out of 10 of my list is done. And it's changed the way I do everything. I mean, I look back at some of my journals from years ago, and I'm like, oh my God. I remember the things I was facing and that we got them done, which taught me that everything is resolvable. And it also has taught me discipline because my time matters. So if I write it, it's like my journal's my word. When friends tell me, yo, let's make sure we go on this trip, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put in my journal. You know it's done. If I put in my journal, it's done. So if I write, yo, I'm gonna go see you, I'm gonna put in my journal, it's a done deal. Because I see it all day. And another reason it's very important is because life comes at you like a speeding train. You may wake up and think you're gonna have the best day in front of you. And you walk out that door and it's gonna be the crappiest day in front of you. And everything that you had planned to do may have just went out the window because you're focused on the problem. You may have woken up and you were sick. Now you don't want to do anything. But if you have your stuff written down, you at least have something to go back on and reflect on and kind of get you back on course when life threw you off course. And I don't know about you, but you know, life throws me off course like every 36 hours. So I got to like get back on course and, you know, and keep addressing the things that are coming up. So the journaling allows me to stay effective and to stay focused because everything else is going to come at you. We may have a guest that rips us up and everybody's losing their mind about it. But I'm like, okay, that's cool, but we got to, you know, repair these 14 air conditioners. Like, you know, you have to stay on track and write things that matter. Every day you should write one thing that moves you forward.
Yeah, and I can't tell you for myself how much this has made a change and how much I'm getting done. I'm still struggling with the habit. I'm not quite where Robert is. I might miss a couple of days. I just sort of pick right back up.
You miss days?
I've missed
If I leave my journal?
I've missed a couple of weeks at some point.
Yes, I'm going to tell you something now. I've left my journal and I grab a piece of envelope and I start writing down what I'm doing. Because if not, I'll be like this in the car at the light. Like, I'm dumb.
Yeah, and I find it, and maybe it's based on where we are age-wise. I don't know if this applies as much to millennials, but it seems like once you write it down, it's almost, and once again, coming from real estate where you're signing notes, mortgages.
It's an agreement.
It just sort of becomes like an agreement with yourself, right? Like, yeah. I'm going to do this, and there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it was, Robert showed me when I was in his book, it felt really good when I was like the little check.
It said, meet Earl.
Yeah, meet Earl.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. Don't do it on your phone. I'll tell you
yeah,
right
because you don't,
I'll
it's
tell you
not
right
a
now.
contract.
Who still here has their first cell phone? Right. Who still here has their first cell phone? Right. That means you don't have your first journal. Don't do it on your phone. Put it in a book. Because at the end of the day, listen, when you leave, somebody's got to tell your story. This is your story. My kids are going to find my journals and be like, and they're gonna read things like, call Julie and tell him I love him. They're gonna be, damn, Dad was thinking about me on November 13th. Like these things matter. Your notes matter. So somebody's got to tell your story. So you write it and let your story be told.
Yeah, everybody in this room, go to Staples, go buy your journal. I went out the day after I met Robert and started doing it, and like I said, it's made a huge difference for me. Wish I did it earlier. Wish we had that conversation, but just didn't think to ask about it. Because you were journaling when I knew you, but I didn't think to ask. So I only have 2 more questions, and then we'll get to questions from the audience. Hopefully you guys are getting a ton of value out of this, but describe what your typical day looks like. And I know that's going to be a different day depending on your city, but like, just give me an idea. You wake up.
Okay. So my typical day is, I wake up between 5 and 7, depending how I'm feeling. Normally about 6:15ish. And when I open my eyes, first thing I do automatically, like clockwork, is I think of something that I'm grateful for. Think of something I'm grateful for. Then I think of a relationship I'm grateful for. Meaning it could be anybody. It could be a friend. It could be my beautiful niece. It could be anybody. Think of something a relationship I was glad that I met somebody. And then I literally think of something I'm grateful that's visibly in front of me. Like today, I was appreciating some mirrors I got in my room, right? I was like, I really appreciate it. Because, I practice gratitude. It's very important to me.
Yeah,
so I think,
struggling with that personally.
Yeah,
yes.
It's important, right? Especially when you
really
don't have, because I remember the recession.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Even though financially it was a rough time, personally, life-wise, it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
It was actually great. So I think of those things, and then I get up, I grab the Bible, because I'm a man of God, and I read the Word. And after I read the Word, I read, I pray, I reflect on what I read, and then I piggyback, because next to my Bible, I now keep a book that I'm reading. Because if I read the Word every day, I now read my book I'm reading every day. So I read the Word, and since I clockwork, I know I'm going to do that. Whatever book I'm reading, I read 10, 12 pages a day. 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. 10, 15 pages a day. Then I'll eat something, do a little workout if I can, if I want to or not. Then I grab my phone. Now the reason is, I charge my phone in another room. It doesn't even stay in the bedroom with me. Because I understand that, we're the first generation who really got bombarded with this. But the truth of the matter is that the minute you grab your phone, you go into response mode. I don't care how disciplined you are. If you open a message and just say, oh my God, you got to call me, you don't believe it happened, your whole day's shot. Because there's nothing you're not going to do to find out what just happened. Right? Mimi? Right. So I leave my phone, I charge my phone in another room upside down. I don't even want to see the little blinking light, like Blackberries used to do, upside down. Because when I wake up in the morning, I need to have my day, my time. I know what I do, I know the businesses I run, I know I'm a father, I'm a brother, I know the responsibilities I have in life. But before I give myself to the world, I got to give myself to me, I got to give myself to my Creator. So I take a little bit of time for myself first. I plan on my day, I think about what's going to happen, and then I go out there, I grab the phone, and the minute you grab the phone, guess what? It goes into what it is. But if I didn't take my time, then I really never got my day back. But so since I practice this ritual in the morning, and then I have my journal, which keeps me on course throughout the day, then response mode is really not that crazy. And I normally start, we normally shut down at about, my team shuts down by about 6:30ish, but I shut down sometimes at 10 or 11, only because I deal with different time zones in other countries. So I sometimes have communication things. What I've learned to do is get all the messages out the day before, so they don't be calling me with a 5-hour time zone difference, 6 hours. But that's kind of what my day consists of.
When I had 100 doors, my phone used to go off. Right. Probably a good idea. I maybe should go back to that. That's what I'm thinking after hearing what you're saying.
It's your day, man. It's your life.
Yeah. And the last thing, and this is something that we had talked about as well, I know that you tend to take a lot of, you call them thinking days. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that, because I love this idea, because I find that even as a real estate investor, and I've had a fair amount of success, I don't want to say I'm far from Bart Blatstein, let's be honest, or some of the other bigger guys, but I've had some success. But I find that a lot that I'm looking more, if you're walking, like to give this visual of, you're walking down the street, I'm looking frequently way too much at the cracks. Like there could be, even just taking California, there could be a wildfire at the end of the block, and I'm just looking at the cracks being like, well, I hope I don't trip on that fella. So tell me about the thinking day and what that's done for you and what it's done for your business.
So once a week, or every 2 weeks, I'm trying to get it down to, I'm not trying, we're going to get it down to once a week. I take a day to think. And that just really means to just kind of tune out of whatever. And it's not a vacation day, but I don't load my calendar up. I take a day to think. And then that means that I may literally get on a bus and take a ride to New York or to DC. I may go sit in a park somewhere if the weather's beautiful. I go down to Independence Park and I read. I enjoy that. I may just go for like a real long walk. because then your mind is thinking, you've tuned out of everything of your responsibilities and working, and you start thinking. And then in your thinking, you start getting creative. And then you start remembering things that you forgot, or you start thinking about how to fix things that you haven't even thought about fixing yet. You start thinking about growing. You start thinking about relationships that, you know what, what's this guy doing now? Let me reach out to him.
Sure.
You start thinking, because if you're always working, who's thinking? If you're running your business and you're always working it, who's thinking? So I can't afford not to think, because
Yeah.
then I'm going to be working with everybody else. So I
And
literally
then
have to
somebody
think.
sticks the stick in your spokes and you go over the handlebars
Yeah.
and you fall flat on your
So,
face.
so my thinking day is just a day dedicated, or a good portion of my day dedicated to just download a bit, think, and it still could be work related or family related or business related, but I take some time to think and digress and readjust to then just come back in. And my favorite way to do it, really honestly, because I went to school via train and bus most of my life from Newark to Jersey City and back and forth and everything. My favorite way to think is I literally would go and just buy a ticket. I go to the Chinatown bus or Mega Bus, and I literally just buy a ticket, get on the bus, and be out. And then get off wherever it is, and then just buy a return ticket and come back. That's my thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I find, so when I started at my current job, I called up my director of lending and I was like, hey, I met this guy Robert and I want a thinking day. Does that seem cool? And he was like,
What did
no.
he say?
He's like, no, that doesn't seem cool at all. So corporate America's gonna they're just gonna, so I just decided what I started doing is I've been taking a couple of hours a week and really just saying hey, what can I do better? What does that look like?
Yes.
How can I increase a
What
relationship,
if I'm
make
wrong
it
about
better?
this?
Yeah, what am I wrong? Where do I see the market going? And it really starts making you think, and trust me, we're going to be talking what's going on in the market. That's going to be a really interesting question between 2019, 2020, maybe even 2021, of we're going from really a seller's market to a buyer's market. How bad is the crash? Not a crash, but are we going to have a crash? Are we not going to have a crash? But regardless, one of the other things, and this sort of goes back, and I think this is just once again, and I don't want to get into how much money you make, but you do decently, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
So I want you to tell everybody, because this is once again, this really goes back to, and I'm very big, something that Robert and I really have in common, and I think the way that you deal with money is sort of the way that you were raised and how you were dealt with it. So there's a lot of people who were raised poor, they were told that they can't have things, and then the moment that they start getting money, they can't say no to things. Prime example, I have a friend, he's got a $250,000 Range Rover. Probably shouldn't own a $250,000 Range Rover. It's called the Autobiography. It's the most beautiful Range Rover you've ever seen. How do you get to Philadelphia most of the time?
Bus.
Bus. What's it cost you?
$24 round trip.
$24 round trip. So
Because
it's what you need, not what you want.
Well, first of all, I deserve a driver, so I let the man drive, right? Mindset. So I deserve a driver, so I pay the extra $1 on the Mega Bus and I pick my seat, the one with the little table, or I take the Chinatown bus because they already know me, right? I got bus tickets in my pocket. If I'm in New York and I'm coming this way, I take the bus in. Why? Because I get 2 hours of thinking. I read, I write,
Yes.
I communicate with my teams. I get so much work done in that little mobile if I'm coming back and forth.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
And it's just sort of goes back to what you're saying about practicality. I mean, one of the things that I always ask, and it's been something that I've really taught to my kids, is what do you want versus what do you need?
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be like a lecture about that kind of stuff, but when you figure out what you actually need versus what you want, you frequently find that those are two different things. And it's a very gratifying
Yes.
lesson. So,
Well, that's true, because you see, a lot of people always try to have what they want until life kicks in and and then you wind up getting your car repoed, or you're evicted, or you're in a bad situation, and you're like, damn, I really didn't need to do that. I didn't really need to go that hard. Sometimes reality hits you, and you gotta remember.
or you get that thing and you find out it's not everything you thought it would be.
That's right. Yep.
You get that $3,000 square foot house, and you're like, yeah, it's a lot to clean. It's a lot to heat, right?
It's a lot to clean.
Speaking from personal experience on
That's a
that
good
one.
That's a good
And
one.
you go down to a 1,200 square foot house, and you're like, hey, this is the greatest house I've ever owned. And
Right.
people are looking at you like, I was in your last house, I don't know about that.
You have to be practical, and we were raised practical. We were blessed. It was like if we came home and we ate ramen noodles and sausage, we really thought ramen noodles and sashimi, or rice, beans, and eggs. We thought rice and eggs was actually an entree. Until you get old and you're like, oh, I guess we didn't really have money, because we were eating rice and eggs all the time. We thought it was good because they really were like, this is what it is.
Yes.
If you came home and said, hey, I don't want that, then my mom would be like, oh, so you're not eating today? Okay, I do want that. Yeah. So we were raised very practical, and we carried it over most of our lives.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's pretty much all the questions I had for Robert. We're going to do some audience questions. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. then we'll do some networking.
So with his, because I know you have one.
Hey, by
Yeah,
the way,
go ahead.
thanks for coming out here and giving us this great info. It's real
Thank you.
awesome.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And,
Thank you for coming.
question for you. When you're approaching homeowners to be their tenant, to sublet it out, is there a question, does that switch over to who's gonna take care of certain maintenance and stuff like that? Is that conversation the same?
Automatic.
It's automatic, just like
Yeah.
you take over the maintenance?
Well, we take over the minor
Repair-
maintenance
the
during
repairs. Not the day-to-day, but like normal wear and tear, but
yeah.
repairs, does that ever switch over, or is that
That's
just stay
there.
the same with them?
Yeah, I'm not fixing roofs, plumbing, electrical. I'm not doing
Got
that.
you. So
I'm
it's-
paying you your guaranteed money every month. If you're an owner and you turn your properties over to us, I can guarantee you this: you can literally move and go on vacation, and just give me your wire number, and you'll receive your money every month. I'm guaranteeing you're going to receive your money every month. Just guarantee me that you're going to do some repairs when it needs to be done, and that's fair, right? I don't think yeah. Yes.
How do you go about approaching the owners with the opportunity of Airbnb opportunity? How do you go?
Well, it's you pretty much you're looking at the unit. You wanna kind of give them that information right from the beginning, so you're not doing showings and looking at all these apartments and wasting all this time, and they say no. So you want to go look at the unit, or if you're calling them, you be like, hey, listen, I rent to corporate people, I rent to vacation home renters. My money's guaranteed. I could do 2-3 months up front. If you're interested in it, but this is what I do. No, click. You do it again. Dial tone. Then somebody might say, explain it to me. I don't understand. Then you got them. Then you go from there. You gotta understand. You gotta have some thick skin, because you're gonna get insulted. But it's okay. That just comes right off.
And I think that also starts with having maybe some relationships with some other people.
Yes, talk
that
to
may
realtors.
already- realtors. I'm a firm believer. You want to make more money. People that have been coming to this meeting long enough, you want to make more money, get more contacts in your phone, and just start having better relationships.
I love
right?
that. Yeah, we were talking about that in the house. Have more
Yeah.
contacts on your phone.
1,000 contacts. That's,
Yeah.
that's and I purged my when I started this job, and I went from like 1,200. All my ex tenants just lost their numbers. It was like a little bit of a wait, but I went down to like 969, and I was like, I can't wait to get back to 1,000.
Yeah, you have to. You gotta work it. If you talk to 2 people and then wait a month and talk to 1 person, I mean, you're out of business.
And also,
Yeah,
I would
really.
imagine, like any other business, previous to this in another life, I was in the golf business, but we had 24 accounts when I first started. So when you go somewhere, you're like, hey, I got 24 accounts, and they're like, well, I don't know if you really are where you need to be. When I left, we had 400. So you go in there and you just start name dropping, and it works a lot easier. So it's sort of the same thing. When you're like, hey, I'm just starting out, it's going to be hard.
I go to
When you've
eviction
got
court.
90, that's an even better one. And yeah, as far as finding
No, yeah.
places, there's something called Craigslist. There's
Yeah.
eviction lists.
Yeah. You just have to
There's-
let them know. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to just let them know what it is. Like I go to eviction court, and I'm just standing there and see somebody spazzed out, and I'm like, here's my card. This is what I do. I've got calls. I'm not ambulance chasing, but I'm there. So here you go. What I got to lose? I went by, bought a falafel, gave them a card, and they left. That's what it is. Yeah.
And you build relationships with those people who say no, and maybe they become a yes.
Yeah.
So go ahead, next question.
Either one. Yes.
So I know that you furnish all of your apartments and your homes.
Yes.
But what do you leave there? What do you furnish as far as like food, drinks, coffee, tea?
Coffee, tea, sugar, salt, and pepper, and coffee filters.
No water bottles, no.
I would suggest yes. No, I would suggest yes. If you can do that, I would suggest yes. If you have 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, yeah, give it all the little personal touches. They're gonna appreciate that. We don't. We're scaling a little bit bigger, but I do believe that we need to take it to a little more personal and start adding a couple of little more things.
Some like little tablets, some making.
Yeah, like a friend of mine, he creates little tablets with his phone number on them, little mints. Like you can do whatever you want. You can play around with it. Listen, it's fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Get creative with it. I'm sorry, I get you next.
Yeah, cybersecurity. We have a few properties right now that we're doing on VRBO, HomeAway.com and
Nice.
stuff.
I
And
love
I
it.
am very concerned because I keep getting requests, send us your address, I'll mail you a check, and immediately I delete those. I don't even entertain them.
Mm-hmm.
I did initially, but then when I would try to give them a PO box. So do you take money any other way other than through the system?
No, great question. Spoken like a host. Great question. Cybersecurity, seriously, you're going to get a lot of people. Airbnb has the best security for purchases, for payments. HomeAway and VRBO, which are owned by Expedia, they're lax on that because they're ran by vacation home rental payment. So what we do is, first of all, when somebody says, mail me all this information so I can, or give me this information, I can mail you a check, I send it to spoof@homeaway.com, and then, then I just say no. And then, so I don't take that because that's automatically a fraud. And another step is when people book on that platform, we have a credit card authorization form that we send it to the people because Somebody can steal somebody's card on the 1st, book your place, take it from experience, stay, check out. By the time the person realizes it, they already left, and then you get a chargeback on your card. I had a family from France at my house on Cleveland Street, and I got the cancellation of the chargeback. I show up, they were there, they were like, no, it was my sister, let me call her. I went to go get gas. I came back, they were gone.
Wow.
7 days. I caught them on the 7th day. So that, so I went and took a course, because, you got me the first time, you're not gonna happen again. I took a course, and I figured out how to avoid that. So there are some challenges. Like, again, this isn't just leave your house furnished and leave. There's responsibilities that come with running this business. But on those platforms, the authorization form helps, because now when somebody books and I send them the authorization form, which requires a copy of the card and their ID, then they'll cancel, which let me know. Right, so we get, on that platform, we get 1 cancellation, 2 cancellations a month. But we have a large portfolio. But because they can get through HomeAway and VRBO easier, just so you know.
Sure. And as you start doing anything, when you're a smaller business, got a lot more meandering that you can do, but I'm sort of a firm believer. I mean, the previous lending company that I owned, the company I work for now, we're doing the same volume in a month that my company would do in a year. So we had a ton of flexibility, but you're going to lose a little bit that as you go to a company. That's why every corporate America, it seems like, they have their rules, and if you break them, you're out. That's why, right? You want if it's almost better to start with that theory of like, this is the way I'm growing to this size, and start with that, and then work your way backwards, rather than sort of just trying to meander along.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely. Yes. You had a question? You were. I'm sorry.
So aesthetically, for your sheets or your linens, do you stick with one color? Do you use color versus white?
Great question. We just made a changeover at the last meeting. We're going all white. We definitely had 2 colors, which was a beige and like a taupe color, which we would purchase Better Homes and Garden linen at Walmart. It was a great deal because no matter what city we're in, we can pick it up or ship it. And it had a good durability. It lasted at least 200 washes. So we were using that one. But we decided to go white because when I came back from this conference I was in, we decided to go white because we learned a better way to make the bed, and it's easier to bleach. I know that with the white, we might lose some more linens because, they get stained, it's harder to clean out. But we've gotten a little bit of a better feedback that when people come in and they see a crisp white bed with a crisp white sheet, they feel it's cleaner than as opposed to, I don't know if that linen is that clean or not. So, the fact that it's white and it's clean, they automatically think it's, it's clean, because it pretty much is. So that's what we're now going in that direction, starting next month. Question?
Is there anything that you suggest looking out for as far as like legality wise?
Yes.
Insurances or contracts or like anything that?
Great question.
Fantastic question. Every city is not Airbnb friendly. Like in Paris, for example, we couldn't go past the 90 days. And in the United Kingdom and London, we couldn't go past 90 days as well. Barcelona is just a wrap. You can't even get a permit. So every city is New York, same thing. They have a short-term law. Collingswood and Bethlehem also have issues. See, it was good in the first couple of years because they didn't know how to put their hand around it. But now it's 10 years in. Airbnb, 20, 18 years VRBO HomeAway. So now they've got their hands around it. So now they're implementing restrictions and guidelines and little ways to stop you. So whatever town or city that you're in, just Google, is vacation home sharing legal in this XYZ area. And they'll give you the legal documents or the legislation for your area. This is the truth. And so you don't get penalized or catch a bill. And find out, what's available, what's allowed in the district that you're in. Every district is different.
Do you have like a renter's insurance of an umbrella of all of your properties or individual or?
There's actually rental insurance for vacation home rentals because it's new. So you may rent a property and think that you have renter's insurance, but if something happens and they come back and they're like, well, this is a vacation home, you don't qualify. Because they're looking for any little thing to void out your policy.
They're all there to take your money.
Right, they're all there to take your money and not going to give you anything back. So now
back.
there's existing companies that are created because this is such a huge industry. Remember, there's 191 countries, I think, that have it, and there's over 14 million listings of vacation homes. It's a business. It exists. So now they're filling in the void of what didn't exist before. Right. Anything else? Yes.
Once you get a unit, how long does it take you to get it up and running? Like once you lease?
If the unit is in pretty decent condition, we're up in 7 days, 6 days. We're rented pretty much day one after we finish. Because the minute we get the unit, this is the advantage of having a system. The minute we get the unit, we post it that it's available, starting the finishing date. And I just use my other pictures and say, this isn't the unit, I put it, but this is how we design. And then people book it. And then when we finished, we literally walked out of a unit at 2:40 p.m. and the family pulled in at 3:15.
Are you posting these? Or
Regularly.
do you have like, is your main person who's the?
I post. I enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy writing. Yeah, I enjoy
Okay.
doing the posting and the writing and catching my mistakes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, from a tax point of view, I'm assuming you're running everything through like an LLC?
Correct. Or corporation. Yep.
One question, two parts. How do you feel about destination rentals such as Poconos and Jersey Shore when there's, and the other half of that question is, what do you do in the off season when it's slow and there's nobody really wanting to go to those areas?
That's why I don't go to destination rentals.
Okay, that's right.
That's
Hey, Poconos is
favorite.
pretty year-round.
No, right. And I can't say.
Well, that was more Jersey Shore related, I
Right.
guess.
But let me hit you with that one. This is the truth. I'm not saying that destination rentals aren't great. I just don't have the experience in it because I need to know that my operation has money coming in all year long. Right, and I don't want to get wiped out because of a Mother Nature, especially at the kind of commercial, the 500-year storm is 26 in the past decade. He freaked me out the other day. I was watching him on TV like, so I focus on cities that have people coming in for multiple reasons, for multiple rental purposes all year long. And I already know that my down season in the East Coast, my down season is January, February. So my $100 rental a night becomes $80. We know that already.
Yeah. So I would say if you have that multi-unit at the shore, I mean, one strategy there might be if you can get a multi-unit, it offsets your cost of going down there, and you just get to go, and maybe, it might have to rent all year long, but then you get fall and spring, and that's what you do, and that's your benefit.
So add it. This is a good one. So you may have, let's say, Jersey Shore. What's your Jersey Shore time? Your busy time. May to September?
End of September.
Okay, so May to October, let's say, right? May to October. So then October, November, December to the next May, have them on the other platform. So you may have additional money coming in from them because you might have some people that are looking for a place to stay. Right? So it's just another source to have more money. And then during your busy time, block it out because that's your bread and butter, right? So it's just more resources to get more money coming in. Right. No question?
How do you finance for scale?
Actually, we've been fortunate. We have some companies behind us that, first of all, when you're doing vacation home rentals, it's a receivable because it's paid in advance. So now there's companies that literally look at our receivables and they give us the money that we need in advance because they know it's coming in at a percentage. So they'll be like, okay, Robert, you have $38,000 coming in the month of February, and 38, 52, 73. They're like, okay, well, we'll give you this loan because they know that the money's, and then because it's digital, we modify the amount coming in, and so we'll receive 90% of the money, and we'll give them 10% of the money. So as the reservation comes in, the loan is being paid off without us ever even sending a check. Like there's financing now for vacation home rentals.
Sure.
Believe
And
it.
also
It's
going back to
incredible.
what I said
It didn't
before.
exist before. It is now.
And what I was saying also before, I mean, you can go to maybe a smaller furniture store and maybe do some leverage with them as well. I mean, once again, it all goes down to relationships and just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, Raymore and Flanagan will give you 18 months or a year without paying anything. So like your first one,
That's one way.
that's
Yeah.
an easy way
And,
to
you
get
know,
in and just go that way.
But
Or-
let me add something to that. Put some skin in the game, because when you put some skin in the game, you respect your work more. If it's somebody else, we know this from what we went through. If it's somebody else's money, you're a little bit more lax on it. You have more chances to drop the ball because you're not really paying attention. But when you got a little skin in the game, you pay more attention to what's going on in your business. Take it from wins and losses. You got a question?
Security again, how do you access the doors, codes, or?
We have we have lock boxes on all the properties, and we modify them, seasonally, or maybe depending. It's up to actually really the cleaning crew. They really decide how they do it. But we also have the emergence. We have a double box system. So every property has a lock box, but every property has a second lock box. Why is that? Anybody know? So I'm abroad, I'm away, somebody called me, hey, I lost my keys, and we didn't have a lockbox. So now they gotta call the locksmith, they get the locksmith, they break it up, they fix it, they paid for it, but guess who gets the bad review? Me, for some reason, because they lost the key. So what we do now is we have a double lockbox
with a special code that only we have. So if they lose the key, they reach out to us, we just give them the new code, then they get into the property. Simple as that. Yeah. $30. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Lamont.
Hey, what's up, Rob? Rob is my mentor. Yeah. Tremendously. Do you target like Jamaica and any of the tropical islands?
We have a conversation going now with the Dominican Republic. There's a resort that wants us to take over a portion of their hotel, the resort, because they understand that people don't just want to rent rooms anymore. They want to kind of do the longer stay. So they're looking at us to, you know, facilitate that. So the tropical islands are great. You know, people go to vacations. But before you go, we're not in any tropical island right now, but before you consider tropical island, well, what is like, let me see if I can answer this way. Everywhere that you go from after this meeting, every place that you guys visit, look at it, can this work? So next time you go on vacation, look at it like, you know what, can this work? Look around. Stay at an Airbnb or at a vacation home rental. Start feeling it out what it's like. Because that's the best research on home. I haven't stood in a hotel, I can't even remember. I think the Sheraton, Society Hill, years ago for my birthday. I don't even remember. Yes. Co-host expert. I got a card. I'll give it to you. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
What about timeshares? Renting those out?
Renting a timeshare to re-rent it? We don't do that.
Could though.
Yeah.
I was thinking the
Yeah,
exact
no,
same
yeah,
thing.
no, that's interesting. I love these things. You learn some stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
because
that's not a bad
they have
idea.
a crap ton of them at Disney. Like if you go
Right.
to Disney, there's like timeshares everywhere.
Right.
Somewhere where their kids got old and they're not using it. That was actually one of my ideas that was percolating on the. Somewhere there's somebody whose kids grow up, they don't go to Disney anymore, and they got a timeshare, and what do they do with it? I'm not in Orlando, but my thought was sort of the same process.
Well, but what happens is if they have a big inventory and it's vacant, there's a reason, right? So you got to weigh that out a little bit too.
No. What it is like he said, my parents have timeshares in Orlando.
Right.
And we're all like really grown.
Okay.
So they're wasting.
Yes, you
their-
had them when you were.
Oh,
young. You
got
brought
it,
your
got
kids
it.
there.
Yeah. Also, use just yes. That'd be a good way to do it. Yeah, absolutely. I got it now. I looked at it the other way around. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you could go to somebody, so like one place might have, there might be 30 timeshares there, and all
Right.
you're doing is taking the one where the people aren't going to it, and then kind of
And
doing
making
that.
it available.
Yeah,
Because
now-
people pay timeshare and they just let them sit empty because they decided not
Correct.
to use them.
Right.
So actually, that's pretty good. That's still a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Another question? Anything else?
All right, let's do one more.
So you hit 10 properties, right? You hit 20, and each one's a different plateau. What are you thinking when you go from, say, 20 to where you are now? And just from a capital reserve point of view, to make sure that you can, you know, come up with the 4,000, security deposit, first month's rent. What's kind of your like base formula kind of going from, let's say where you are now to 500, 5 years down the road? Where do you, I mean, you're using maybe a bank to a
great
certain degree,
question.
like you mentioned.
Fantastic. Great question.
What are you, I mean, what's your capital reserve so you can pay the rent, God forbid if something happens, that, you know, renters aren't coming in?
Right.
What would you
Okay.
suggest?
20% of the reservations coming in go to the side.
Okay.
That's capital reserve. You know, to have to be liquid. Because you know, if the lender says, hey, we don't want to do it and it's a great deal, the developer says, hey, I'm gonna give you the whole 13th floor, and the lender's like, I don't know, we've never done an entire floor before. I'm not gonna blink because he's blinking. I'm gonna do what I need to do, so then I'm gonna tap into my reserves. Yeah. So 20% of the reservation. Because normally we have that available at the properties. You know, the low season, January and February in the East Coast, it's a little bit different. We might not do the 20%, but the most of the year, yeah.
And who would you recommend as far as like the bank financing, the short-term financing to float if you didn't have the 20% capital reserve?
Well, the short-term financiers are only going to finance you with history.
History.
Yeah, you see, basically, we get financing because we have a track record in a portfolio. So they're like, you're doing this, we'll fund you.
2-year history?
Yeah.
Property history, you have to have reservations under your belt. Like,
So
the
anything
owner
else?
can get a loan because you have a property, you've been up how long now? 4 years. So she can tap into the financing because they'll look at her reservations and say, she's active and she's been consistent.
Yeah.
You can't go in and say, I need 20 grand, I'm gonna go get 5 Airbnbs. You have no history, no track record.
Yeah, it's gonna, that road up is gonna be slow, but
Right,
then you
right.
get
So
to
it's
the top.
in your printout of rental history,
Yeah.
you know, from VRBO.
Yes,
would be
exactly.
justification.
Because then they can say, and really more, honestly, truthfully, harder on Airbnb. They look first at Airbnb and then they look at VRBO and HomeAway, just so you know.
Okay.
Because Airbnb's digital platform is more friendly towards financiers because they can tap into your money coming in and receive a portion of it.
Yeah.
VRBO doesn't allow that.
And I mean, if you're looking for leverage, I mean, one of the easiest things that goes almost back to like a repeating of an idea, and I don't know if you were around when this happened, you used to be able to buy properties with a credit card if the amount was low.
Right.
Like you just go into a title company and they took a credit card. So like I would say like you take your money, you leverage that with credit card money, leverage it with store credit that you can do, and that's how you get started.
Right.
And then, you know, making sure that you still maintain your liquidity and stuff like that so that your whole, you know, deck of cards doesn't come crumbling down. I mean, I'll tell you right now, my primary mortgage is paid 1 year in advance, and I have at least a year's worth of money. That's like pretty much like where my security comes from, that I always want to make sure that those are things. So that I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage for a year. I can still live even if I had to pay my mortgage, so that the whole deck of cards can't come crashing down. Because I guess similar to people who went through the Depression, I saw a lot of people, you know, Robert talked about losing properties. Fortunately, I didn't lose any, but trust me, I took away back more than I ever wanted to. But like you see how people could be really successful and have it all come crashing down. So like you have to be careful that you never over leverage yourself, but it's hard as a real estate investor.
No, and that's what Earl says is very true. Once, like you said, you get addicted to it, right? Like your sister-in-law, I think it is sister. You get addicted to it, but you gotta pause it. You gotta stay in your lane and pace yourself and say to yourself, not get scared, but you gotta say, you know, let me be practical about this and handle this correctly and grow accordingly. Be aggressive, be smart, be creative, but you know, be real. Be a realist about it.
Yeah,
you know, that's
because there's nothing worse than building it all up and watching it all come back down.
Amen.
Amen. Right. I think we're going to conclude on that. I don't want to keep every. Once again, I can talk to Robert for a long time. Yes, Christine.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
What do you think about the smart pricing that Airbnb recommends?
Garbage. Who said that? There you go. Yeah. Actually, yeah, Jason, yeah, you got to unit up. Smart pricing, they tell you, the smart pricing is based on what people are looking, when they enter their budget of what they're looking to spend, on what they're looking for, that they're going to get the fastest hit to rent it to you. Like, you know, that's kind of like one of the formulas. But I don't really use it. I just go by experience of what we're getting in the area. You know, yeah, smart, because sometimes it's super low. I mean, I've had them say smart pricing $53 a night, and I'm at like 110 and I'm still renting. So it ain't really that smart. Right, yeah, I'd be stupid. You know, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Smart for them.
Yeah, smart for them. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Keeps them running more frequently.
Right.
All right. I think we'll do some networking. If you
Take
guys
it?
huh? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just give one suggestion. If you guys decide, I'll say, well, first of all, thank you. Because I learned some stuff in these questions too, you know, and I really enjoy this. If you guys decide to enter the vacation home industry, understand it is here to stay, but it's in the legality stages, meaning that the municipalities now have their hands around it and they figured out how to tax them and stuff, which is good because they'll leave it open. But you know, don't try to be too under the radar. Do it legitimately. It's here to stay, and it's available to grow, and you may do well with it, but it's work. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not. I mean, I'm 5.5 years in now, you know, and year 1 and 2 was fun, but I saw where I made all my mistakes. You know, so find some people that do it, talk to them, get some information, read some books on it. There's so many books on vacation home rentals, especially when I get mine out. but read,
it always works. You come out with it a little late.
No, but read some books. No, read some books on it, and then go from there. You know, and enjoy it as much as you can. Even before you buy a big property, make a commitment for a big mortgage. Test the waters if real estate is something really for you. You know, this is new. It's not something we were brought up learning. So you know, take advantage of the momentum because you know there will be a little bit of saturation somewhere down the line.
Absolutely. So you do see that coming, because I was going to say at some point
that's
it's
why
going to be
like
everything
that's
else.
why I stay at 50%.
Okay.
The saturation window.
Yes.
Right.
And I can tell you that that's what you see with people with rental properties as you hit a market turn. The people who are buying for appreciation rather than cash flow, and they're like, well, this building's going to be worth X number of dollars. Those are usually the ones that end up in foreclosure. Just
exactly.
As a tidbit of personal experience.
Yeah. And my best suggestion to everybody is talk to people who are doing it. Don't talk to those who aren't. If you go home and you start talking to people who don't do this, your first answer is going to be no. Find other hosts and talk to them, and then you'll feel out, and you'll probably be led in the best direction. Okay, that's my best suggestion for you.
All right, we'll go one more question. I can't help myself.
Are you really giving out those journals?
Oh yes, I am going to give out. Right. And the objective was to give it out to the first 2 questions, but I lost track of that. That was originally the goal. So yeah, you know what? There you go. You get one for asking. Well, actually, I'll give it to him because
Yeah.
he's recording. And the other journal, I'm going to give it to. There you go, because you know what? You know why? I'm gonna tell you why. One of my favorite rules: closed mouth don't get fed. She asked, right? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Absolutely.